Welcome back to another section from chapter 3.1 on crust movement. This is Mrs. Pound, and today we will be talking about rock stress and deformation, and it's found in section 313 of your book. Our objectives today are to describe the different types of tectonic stress, explain how the different types of stress can affect the Earth's crust, and list the properties of rock that determine how it deforms under stress. So, the first type of stress I want to talk about is tensional stress. This is the stress produced by two tectonic plates moving apart. So, think of a rope. If you're pulling on a rope, you're putting tension on the rope. So, that's where they get this term from, tensional, because you're putting tension when you're pulling on something apart. And this causes magma to form new crust. And so I have a picture, and I don't know if you can see in the background, there's kind of steam in this picture because this is in Iceland, where if you look on your tectonic plate map on page 5 of your reference tables, you will see that a divergent plate boundary, goes right through the middle of Iceland, and so you have two tectonic plates moving away from each other. So there is magma coming up to the surface there, and you're seeing some steam, perhaps from water being heated up from there being a hot spot in Iceland. Then there is compressional stress. So if you compress something, you're squeezing it. So this is the stress produced by two tectonic plates coming together. So they are compressing. And then there is shearing stress. Think of sometimes another word for scissors are shears, and they move past each other up and down like this. So this is the stress caused by two tectonic plates sliding past each other horizontally. Like scissors, I realize they're going vertically, but if you hold them this way, I guess they're going horizontally. But that's where they get the term from, is like shears. They're going in opposite directions, sliding past each other, as opposed to colliding or stretching out. This type of stress is most likely to cause an earthquake, and if you look at your tectonic plate map on page 5 and you look in California, there is what is called a transform boundary. This is where you have movement like this, and we know that in California there are a lot of earthquakes, and so there is this shearing stress that occurs along the San Andreas Fault that causes all of those earthquakes out west. Now, when there is stress on rock, it will become deformed. This is a change in the shape or volume of rocks. So when it changes in volume, this is could be producing metamorphic type rocks. Also, you can see these folded layers in this mountain in the background. There are all these waves in it because it has been deformed. There are two types of deformation. The first type is faulting. This is the breaking of the Earth's crust and the sliding of the blocks of crust along the break. This occurs in brittle rock, and I have in the background here where the rock has separated, it has broken, okay, and it has caused a fault. There is also folding. This is the bending of rock layers from stress in the Earth's crust. This happens when the rock is elastic, ductile, or bendable, and you can see these nice zigzag folds in this rock in the background. Okay, now along a fault, if there is a fault, this does not happen with the folding, there is what is called the hanging wall and the foot wall. The hanging wall is the landmass above a fault, and the foot wall is the landmass below a fault. Now let's take a look at these pictures, and you will see what is called a normal fault. In a normal fault, the hanging wall is down and the foot wall is up. Okay? The hanging wall is down, the foot wall is up. And you might say, well, that's not, the hanging wall doesn't seem to be the landmass above the fault. It is, because I will show you down here on the reverse fault. This is where the foot wall is down, the hanging wall is up. They call it the hanging wall because if you could imagine that there was a rope right here, if you could hang a rope on this edge here and a person were hanging from it, they would hang down. The same here, they would hang down. There would be no way to hang down here on the foot wall. So that's why it is called the hanging wall. So see if you could attach a rope to it and see yourself dangling from that rope in either of these spots. Then you know it is the hanging wall because you can hang from a rope on it. There's also a strike slip fault. This is a strike slip fault. This is where we have that shearing action where the plates are sliding past each other. Okay, so this is a strike slip fault. So these are the three types of faults. Another thing I want to mention is that with your normal fault, this is caused by that tension stress that we talked about earlier. And the reverse fault is caused by compressional stress. So that is also a difference between these faults. So our objectives were to describe the different types of tectonic stress, explain how the different types of stress can affect the Earth's crust, and to list the properties of rock that determine how it deforms under stress. So don't forget your 5 questions, and I will be back with more about crust movement.